Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a video that I saw on Becca in the Books channel, which is these books will self-destruct in 12 months. So I picked up 10 books off my shelf that I have owned forever and have never read, and if I don't read them in the next 12 months, then they are going to go away forever. The first book I have for this list is That Night by Amy Giles. So I don't know much about this book. What I do know is it involves a shooting, and it follows two characters post-shooting and how they're dealing with the trauma of being involved with something like that. I picked it up after hearing someone recommend it, and it still sounds good to me. It sounded good then, but I have owned this book for so many years and never reached for it. Next on this list, I have The Lies About Truth by Courtney Stevens. So this is a young adult romance that follows Sadie, who has been involved in a car accident and has left her scarred and killed her best friend. And so she doesn't feel like she can move on from this accident until she completes the list that she has written for herself until she meets Max. And Max knows that she has a list and can see her scars and still wants to pursue her romantically. And that scares Sadie. I think that this sounds like a really good premise for a novel. I am still intrigued by this, but again, it has been on my shelf for years and I have never reached for it, and honestly forgot I owned it until I started picking out books for this video. The next book on this list is Go Ask Alice by Anonymous. This is kind of like a diary book, and it follows the diary of a girl who was slipped LSD and her downward spiral from there. So her downward spiral with drug addiction and kind of how that looks for her. I don't know much about this novel. I do like books that are written in diary form. Some of my favorite historical fiction books are written in diary form. So this sounded really intriguing when I picked it up. It still sounds intriguing. It kind of reminds me of Crank though, and I didn't love Crank. I had very mixed feelings on Crank, I should say. It was a very powerful read, but I don't think it resonated with me. Go Ask Alice sort of has that same connection in my brain, so maybe we'll find out. Next on this list, I have The Chaos of Standing Still by Jessica Brody. So I bought this book when Haley in Bookland put it on her top 10 favorite books of, I couldn't tell you what year anymore, maybe like the 2017-18 era. And it reminded me of Textrovert by Lindsay Summers, which I love that book. The premise of this book is that it's a cell phone swap. So two people accidentally swap cell phones, and our main character in this book doesn't want the other person to, I think she had saved a voicemail from her sister that had passed, and she doesn't want him to listen to that voicemail. She's not ready to listen to that voicemail, and so she wants her phone back. So I think that there's very high stakes. It sounds like a good premise. It seems kind of long for the premise of that novel, because like how long can you go without switching phones back? And then I've just never gravitated toward it. The next book that I have for this list is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. So this is a book I picked up when there was a book club. Honestly, I don't remember the premise of the book club, but they were reading Scythe, so I picked it up, never finished with the book club, and never read the book. So this follows, I guess, a dystopian world where there's no hunger, no suffering, no anything. Humanity has conquered all of that, and they've even conquered death, but now there's Scythe, and I feel like I'm saying that word wrong, but these are the people who decide who lives and who dies. We have two teenagers that are chosen as the apprentices, and neither one wants the job, which I think is a really cool premise for a book. I have just never gravitated toward this, and honestly, I hadn't thought about it since that book club that I never followed up with. Next on this list, I have Broken Beautiful Hearts by Cami Garcia. So I picked this book up at a thrift store. It sounded really cute. It sounds like a cute YA romance, and I have never reached for it. It has probably been at least 3 years, if not more, probably more like 4 years. But this follows the story of Peyton, who is a soccer player, which already sounds really cool to me. And Peyton confronts her boyfriend about a secret that she finds out about him, and then she ends up down the stairs. Was she pushed? Did she fall? Only Peyton knows the answer. And so she moves to Tennessee for her recovery, to live with her uncle and sort of process everything that's happened, where she meets Owen. And I think that is a very intriguing premise for a novel, and I would be excited to pick it up. I think honestly it's just the cover that turns me off. Like I'm not intrigued by this cover, maybe. Also, I kind of forgot that I owned it. Next on this list, I have The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West. So I went through a little bit of a Casey West phase. I really liked By Your Side and On the Fence. I never ended up picking up Fill-In Boyfriend, and it has sat on my shelf since at least 2018. So I honestly can't really tell you much about what the story is about without like quickly glancing at the back. So what it kind of sounds like is that our main character Gia has had this boyfriend that nobody believes she had, and when she's finally about to sort of introduce him, he breaks up with her. And so because she doesn't want to be called a liar, she ends up kind of enlisting the help of this random guy that she meets and asking him to be her fill-in boyfriend. I'm sure romance ensues from there. It sounds really cute and definitely like something I would have gravitated toward back in the 2017 era. These days, my taste has changed a little bit, but it still sounds like a cute, easy read. Next on this list, we have Words on Bathroom Walls by Julia Walton. So this follows Adam, who is schizophrenic and who has people that he sees, and he is kind of just believes that this will be his everyday life until he starts a trial drug that actually works. And so while taking this trial drug, he meets Maya, and Maya sees the world of him, and he wants to keep that facade up even as the trial drug starts to fail. I am still very intrigued by this premise. Again, not to harp on the same thing over and over, but mental health representation in books is really important to me, and I honestly haven't heard much about this book, which doesn't turn me off. I know that I have different preferences than a lot of the booktubers that I watch or people that I know in real life, so I wouldn't have really expected to hear much about this book. I picked it up at a thrift store and it has sat on my shelf since. Next on this list is The Lonely Hearts Hotel by Heather O'Neill. I can't tell you what this book is about. I have read the inside flap. I don't know what this book is about. I picked it up off of a recommendation from a Clockwork Reader, probably the same 2017-18 era, and it's sat on my shelf since, and I still don't know what it's about. So I know that Hannah liked it. I just don't know anything about it. And the last book that I have for this list is A Short History of the Girl Next Door by Jared Reck. So I picked this book up off of a recommendation from Jessie the reader, and then it has sat on my shelf for many years now, and I don't even know what it's about anymore. So I know I picked it up for a reason. That's why it's on this list, and I didn't just unhaul it. I specifically remember ordering this book. I just don't know what it's about, and I've never reached for it. So those are the 10 books that will self-destruct if I don't read them in the next 12 months. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to see if I actually end up reading these books and which ones end up unhauled. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!